Birshus, Meronon Brabonon Brabesai, Mishpachas Meyer, soll gesund sein und stark, le'oirech yomim tovim. My great Rabbi, Hagoin Reb Simcha Wasserman, often quoted the pasuk, Umatstike harabim, those that give schus to the rabbim, those that are mezakeh the rabbim, kechachavim, are like stars in Shamayim. The Mefarshim asked the question, why like stars? Why like kechavim? Malochim, tzadikim, noshim tzidkoniyos, but why kechavim? Hagoin Reb Simcha answered, if you ask a little child, you go out in the street tonight, and you ask a child about a star up in the Shamayim, you say, how big is it? The child will say, it's about as big as my hand. The truth is, the star that you see in Shamayim could be bigger than the planet on which we live, the planet Earth. So too, Hagoin Reb Simcha said, in assessing to shuts up the life of a tzaddik, we think the tzaddik was this big, or maybe this big, but in reality, it was bigger than we could ever imagine. It was larger than the earth on which we live. To talk about Haigavra Rabbah, Rabbi Yankie Meyer, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, it is impossible for a person to think that they can touch up, that they can estimate, that they can evaluate, that they know the shavyas, because it's impossible. I knew him well, Mirtzalange Yoren, and whatever I knew about him, there was much more than I didn't know about him, because he was always megala tefach u'mechaset tefachayim. It's difficult for us to know what to do on the Yahrtzeit. This one says, could learn Mishnayos. This one says, do a chesed. This one could say, there are other things specifically, like a lichtele. Another person could say, there's a special memra. I would like to advance the following, only from me. You don't have to take it for much. The Avnei Nezer says in the beginning of the Torah Kedosha, why is it that Sarah Imenu had a child when she was a skena? Why is it that there were so many things that were chutz miderech hateva that happened? The Avnei Nezer says it's to give everybody the idea in their own mind that we are people that can go l'mayla min hateva. We have more koichus than we think that we are able to exude. We have the power in order to be miskaber over many nisyonis in life. We have the power to build for Klal Yisrael. The reason that Sarah Imenu had a child at such an advanced age was to tell us specifically we should learn the parsha and know that we are not limited by human physical factors. Rabbi Yankie Meyer, he showed to all of us there's no physical limitations. There's no mental limitations. There's not, this is what I can do. All the rest is too much. To create Misaskim, to deal with Avelim throughout the world, to answer the call, to do emergency response, here, Eretz Yisrael, wherever the need was, and to be able to go there within minutes or hours or days or whatever it took. He was chutz miderech hateva. It's a montzach, Rabbi Isai. It's required of us to understand this is what we have to live up to. The Heilige Klosenberger Rebbe, Zechet Tzadik Kodesh Otor Livrocha, said one time he asked somebody to do something. And one of the people said, okay, Rebbe, I'll try. Klosenberger Rebbe said, you try? You try? Well, what does that mean, you try? He went on to say that before the war, to carry his Gemara and maybe some Mefarshim, he couldn't do it. He didn't have the physical strength. So he'd have to have a bocher come along with him and carry the Svarim. During the war, they made the Rebbe carry boulders on his back, up and down the hill, sometimes for no reason. Klosenberger Rebbe said, I did it. I didn't try. I did it. Rabbi Yankie, throughout his life, he undertook the impossible. That which most people would say, it's too difficult, it's over my head. I wasn't blessed with the koichos to be able to do it. He never, ever stopped. Never, ever. His question would always be, when he would come late at night, usually 12 o'clock, anybody that would see the car parked outside would tell me the next morning on the street, Rabbi, Yankie was there last night. I said, yeah, how'd you know? He said he forgot his lights were on. He cared about his lights. He cared about his car. He cared about what happened in the Olam HaGashmi. He didn't. He was chutz miderech hateva his whole life. So he would ask me, should we undertake in Misaskim? Can we really do this? It's more than we have. We don't have the manpower for it, and it's difficult, and we didn't have enough facilities and so forth. And I would start to weigh it out with him. But I came to realize after months of knowing him and loving him and respecting him, if you will, idolizing him. I came to realize he never asked me one time if he should do it or he shouldn't do it. He only wanted a bracha. He only wanted encouragement. He only wanted to know that there was somebody somewhere that would say, Rabbi Yankie, go ahead and do it. He did certain things that people were not so happy about. He did certain things that people would say, I don't know, maybe it's biting off too much. I don't know if we can do it, and then it won't work out, and what will happen? He didn't care. He did not care about the naysayers. He didn't care. He went to build his teva throughout all the years, and eventually everybody saw what he did, how he did it, the way that he did it. He was a person that related to each and every individual, no matter who it was, from the children to the Zekanim, from Yidden, Lahavdal Alfi Avdalos to others. It didn't matter from to Fry and everywhere along the side, the point on that spectrum. I came to Stalin many years ago, and there was a siyum on that day, a big siyum. And I came, I had an anicle that participated in the siyum. And there's one of the members of Rabbi Yankie's family and Mrs. Meyer's family, Salanga Yoren, that participated as well. Rabbi Yankie came, I ran to greet him, and a number of people came over to me afterwards. And they said, you know what Yankie Meyer is in yeshiva? I said, no. I thought maybe he's Manal. I didn't know. He says, no, he's a role model. Some children, they say, when I grow up, I want to be this, I want to be that. A lot of the children say, when I grow up, I want to be Yankie Meyer. And I thought to myself, how many people are there that the children, especially Bismanenu, will grow up, I want to be like him. The dugma that he represented to everyone was a Isha Shalem, was a person that knew how to go beyond the comfort level for another Yid. Talmud Bavli Maseches Moed Kotten Dav Chav Hey Ki Nach Nafshe de Rabbi Yochanan Kosha Yom Li Yisrael Ki Yom Ba Shemesh Batzarayim. When Rabbi Yochanan was nifter, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar began the Divrei Hesped that today is the day as difficult as when the sun would set Batzarayim at noon. The Mefarshim asked the question, what does it mean the sun sets at noon? It's a difficulty for us to understand. The answer is given in a Sefer Le'es Mitzoi, and it says that the sun, everybody knows, the sun rises in the east and it sets on the other side. Sometimes the sun is shining on this part, sometimes the sun is shining on that part. It's not always possible to see it. But Batzarayim, the sun is shining on the entire world. It casts its rays on everyone. That was Rav Yankie. He wasn't for these Yidden, not for that Yidden, not for the people who live there, not for the people who live there. He was for everybody. He was a Dover Shavel Chol Nefesh. It didn't matter. Everybody was able to gain from him. He cared about everyone. He had the heart that was sensitive. Not where'd he come from? Which community he lived in? Oh, who is he going? Oh, he's there? Oh, which part is he? Is that group or that group? It didn't matter. He went beyond what a human being would usually consider. I went with him. He called me so many different times for things that other people would just forget. He came one time just for a child. One time just for one child, for one boy we traveled. One time he went, there was a tragedy that happened for one of the families of the Amim in Canarsie. He traveled. He went there. He brought presents. He was Menachem the family. He gave to the wife. He gave presents. Everybody else stood there. Everyone else from every different organization and every different place and the police and they watched. Who was the almana? Who was the woman most moved by of everybody that came? Rabbi Yankie Meyer. When did the most come? When he stood there, a Jewish rabbi. The Kiddush Hashem aspect of his life that continues is something we have to emulate. Unzalange Yoren. The whole Kaddish is Kiddush Hashem. Kiddush Hashem. Rabbi Yomin Zeb in the Tshuva says, Kaddish is Kiddush Hashem. Nitte Gavriel cites that before a person says Kaddish, they should be mechaven for the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. Kiddush Hashem. That was his life. That was the people that he appealed to. It didn't matter who they were, whether it was Chas v'Sholom Atzara, or there was a Ger Tzedek that needed a kfura far away, or a tragedy that happened in the Tree of Life synagogue in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. He dispatched a group and they didn't leave until everything was cleared and they had done whatever they could. In Eretz Yisrael, when he used to go, give me a bracha, he's going to Eretz Yisrael to all the Gedolim, to the great tzaddikim, to get gebenched matbeis, to give out to the assignment. He cared. Every time there was a new situation, he would call me up. I thought he was calling with a B'sura Toiva. And he would say, you can add to the list. And he would have the exact number of anything that would happen. I thought to myself, who keeps the list? Who cares? Who knows the number? Who would think about it? But for Rabbi Yankie, every neshama was tighter. For Rabbi Yankie, he cared about each and every person. It was a completely different relationship than someone that says, I do my organizational work. I'm involved in chesed. Yankie was involved in the neshamas. The Heilige Rav Diskin in Eretz Yisrael, from the Yisoimim, the Beis Yisoimim, he took into his own home Yisoimelach, little girls and boys. The Rebbitzin tended to them. And he used to notice that there was one little girl, after she would take her bath, and the Rebbitzin would tend to her, and she was getting ready, the Rebbitzin would comb her hair from the shampoo. And the girl would cry bitter tears every single time. Another person would say, a child cries. Maybe they're combing the hair a little bit. It's a normal thing, a child will cry. Let them grow up and cry. Let them be a little tough. Rav Diskin asked the Rebbitzin, why is the little girl crying? Rebbitzin said, I don't know. I try to be very gentle with her. The Rebbitzin left. Rav Diskin went to the little girl. Could you tell me, is the hair being combed okay? Does it hurt you? Is it a little too rough? She said, no, Rebbe. In fact, the Rebbitzin gives me more care and is more careful in combing the hair than my mother was. Zichrono livracha. The only thing is that when my mother used to finish, she used to kiss me on my head. And that kiss, I miss. That I don't have anymore. A lot of people, Oisek with Klal Yisrael, a lot of people involved. But the kiss, the neshika, the hug, the care, the varmkeit, that's what we have to understand to continue on. Chosid Ovid min haaretz. The tzaddik leaves this world. The Mefarshim on the daf say, what is it that a person doesn't pay attention to? To continuing on in their same exact ways. To take over whatever the minhagim, the sensitivities, in the exact way that tzaddik behaved, we have to continue the work, continue the kiss. Malachim Perek Beis, Yud Beis, Avi, Rechav Yisrael, Parasha, Lo Rohu Oid. Eliyahu Novi goes up to Shamayim. Elisha sees the ascent up to Shamayim. Avi, Father. It's a Lashon Kafel. The Gedolei Chasidus says, why it's a Lashon Kafel? Avi. What does it mean? I saw such a pshat that is Nageya. Avi, Father. There's an Avi Prati and Avi Klali. There's a specific father and there's a general father. The specific father is for the family, is for the mishpachas, for the children, is for the Eshes Chayil. That's Avi. But then there's an Avi Klali, an Avi for the world, a father for the entire world. That's a different father. But sometimes you have something unique. Both fathers are one. Rabbi Yankie, he was a father to the world. Rabbi Yankie cared about every child. I never forget the fire in Borough Park went back a couple of years. And Rabbi Yankie was up the whole night with the volunteers. I came early in the morning. Rabbi Yankie was shaking. I never usually saw him like that. He was shaking. He said, could you please talk to two of the children? Could you please? I said, okay, fine. Tell him my number. No, right now. That day, I don't remember where the house was. I sat down, I talked for hours. And Rabbi Yankie waited outside. And then later, it told me to go to Lakewood. Whatever he asked me, I did. Whatever he asked me, I did. Rabbi Yankie rief nach dem Folgen. There wasn't a question. I was makir. I recognized him. Hashem blessed me that I should understand an individual that's Moser Nefesh for the cloud, that understand it. He gets it. As they say in Israel, Yeshlo. He understood it. You didn't have to be masbir. Why you have to go? What do you have to do? But why do you have to go? Why do you have to do it in this way? He wants to give this kind of dessert. He wants to give this kind of a present to the almonas that they should have. Be able. Well, do you really need to do it? Wait a second. Let me cheshbon. Wie viel kostet es? No. Why? Because he saw through to the core of what chesed is all about. Ashrei maskil el dol. Dovid HaMelech, Noam Zmiris Yisrael, said, Ashrei maskil el dol. Yeah, you need money. Yeah, sure, here. Take some money. Throw it at him. Maskil el dol. What do they really need? Do they need the money? They need a few good words. Do they need you to be machshav them as a yid? Or machshav them as a person, as a ben adam? Rabbi Yankie, he understood. Maskil el dol. It takes intelligence. He knows what people really need. He knew it. He got it. He hit it on the head. He nailed it each and every time. When I take a look back over that years that I was benched to be as you did, I should have paid closer attention. I should have understood that there's a goin sitting in the house, being machnia, telling him, please take phone calls. Someone would come in, please take phone. You have to go out, someone knocking the door. Please go out, I'll stay here. I have to do something anyhow. I would have realized, I would have chapped. Learn more, observe him. Look at every tnuah sayad. I could have picked up so much more. I could have become so much better, but I missed it. And I'm afraid a lot of people missed it. His godless, his understanding. I am mekane his mitzvahs. I'm mekane what he did. Bishleimus. Everything that he did in his learning. I want you to know he had no bigger hana. No bigger hana than to tell me of art. In the way that he would say it, in the ability that he had to cite it with the Mekoros, was amazing to me. He had a certain gift. He was always mekatzer. I would say, Rabbi Yankie, I love the word, but could you slow it down like half speed and then tell it to me over again? The hana that he had in learning, the hana that he had in mitzvahs, he was on speed the entire time. What speed was it? I got to do the next mitzvah. Zrizim makdimim lemitzvahs. He never stopped. He didn't stop the entire time. He was a father to everyone. A father looks at everyone. A father wants to see to make sure that everybody's taken care of. But the of prati, Rabbi says, is what I would like to talk to you about. The father for his own family. I didn't say anything all the years. I didn't say anything this year, but I'm going to say it tonight. How he cared for each and every child in his family. The shmuzim that we had about taking care of every member, about each and every one. The shilas that he would ask. Hagoyin Reb Moshe Feinstein Zecher Tzadik Livrocha said, they asked me a lot about the kashrus on this restaurant in the Lower East Side, in that place and that. Ask me shilas on chinuch. Ask me shilas on child rearing and raising. So we all ask, child, I have this rabbi, that rabbi, I have a chance who to go into one. One is this and one is that. Yeah, when were you there younger? Yes. Who asks about children when they grow up? Adults and young adults. Did I do right? Could I do more? And should I try to do more? Can I extend myself in a different way? Is it a different mahalach, a zugang that I can take to that child? The Av Prati that Rabbi Yankie was and is, L'havdal Alfei Avdolos, his Rebbitzin, is something amazing. I just want to say it over to the mishpacha, that the family should realize how many thousands of times that he would bring up a member of the family. The Heilige Satmarov was once asked by a new father what to name the child, new father of a little boy, little baby. And he came in and he said, I would like to name this name because one of the great-grandfathers that was named is a Grois Tzaddik. Satmarov said, it's a good name. Then he says, however, there's a different great-grandfather, and he doesn't have a name, and his name was this. Rabbeinu Yoel says, it's a good name. And kept continuing. The Gabba got very upset. Rav Ashkenazi said, Rabbeinu, You got the time to do this back and forth with this father? He said, I tell you the truth. Back in Europe, in the old country, you had to be a Taten daheim. You had to be a Rov for the streets. Do in America, you got to be a Ruv in your house, and you have to be a Tata for the streets. Rav Yankie he was a Tata. He was somebody who cared about each and every person. He cared so much that sometimes he himself personally suffered because of it. It would be very difficult for me to tell you the number of times that I asked Yankie if he could take a little rest. At the time when he would call me up when he was ill, and then one time I remember the daughters, I cannot tell you, had such pride in each daughter, in each son. They were the jewels on his crown. He wore that kesser so proudly. The daughter took over the telephone and said, I'm sorry, my father fell asleep in the middle of talking. He didn't have the koyach to remain. I thought to myself, a yitz moisa nefesh. He doesn't have the koyach to stay up himself, but he cares about the klal, and he has to make sure that one or another thing will get accomplished and will come to fruition. Very, very difficult at a time like this to know how to continue. Yes, to continue full speed ahead, but to do it in the derech of Reb Yankie. He knew it. He was the one that had the koiches. He was the one that had the know-how. He was the one that knew how to be marbe kavod shemayim. Everybody respected him. Didn't matter who it was, from the police department to the fire department to everybody in between. I went in Jersey one time I don't even remember where it was, but it was one of the stadiums. He made a karasatoy for all the police and all of the state troopers who helped out. He brought me in. He just brought me in to say a few words. So I came in, and one of the officers there with the boots up to his comes over to me and he says, you know the rabbi? I said, yeah. He says, you know the rabbi well? I said, pretty well. He said, can I tell you a little secret? I said, please. He said, I want you to know, I saw a lot of people. I believe that the man is an angel. One from the Amim. A man is an angel. Then he started crying. I stayed. He went like this. Go where you're supposed to go. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know exactly what went on, but I can tell you, he understood Chesed. He did everything first. We read Bikurim in this week's Parsha. Oh, the Parsha Bikurim. Bikurim is the first, the nicest, the best. The first things that you give over. The Reishis HaGeis, the Bikurim. He gave the best. He gave the best of his life. He gave the best that he had. He gave the best of his resources. Yaakov Michael, Bigematria, Bikurim. Yaakov Michael, Bigematria, Stokov Chesed. Certain neshamas are sent down into this world in order to better our world and to give us a dugma of who to learn from and who to look up to. If I could, I would talk all night. I would tell you different things that I was zeicha to do together with him. Unfortunately, as the time goes on, it's difficult. I'll be Messiah B'Dover Toiv. The Heilige Ger Rebbe was walking in Eretz Yisrael. He needed to walk for his health. 2 Rebbes back. And it was a day in Yerushalayim, early morning before davening. He goes out to walk, and it's warm. All of a sudden, in the middle of the walk that he needed for his health, he started to pull his coat together. And he said, Carly, it's cold. It's cold. The Gabba immediately said, Rebbe, sit down. I'm getting the tzala immediately. You go in the hospital, that's it. The Rebbe said, why? He said, it's a warm day. The Rebbe said, you don't understand. The Chayalim right now and the Chemon, they're very cold. And the soldiers' cold, I feel in my bones. That was Hagoyin Tzaddik, Rabbi Yankie Meyer. He felt the cold, the pain, the tsar, the necessity of all of Klal Yisrael in his bones. Tei Zichro Baruch. His memory should be a bracha for all of Klal Yisrael. His neshama should have a gewaltige aliyah with everything that's done and all the efforts of the mishpacha and the efforts of all good Yidden in Misaskim. We should continue in his ways. We should go in his footsteps. That would be the biggest aliyas neshama that we could provide. Bila movas l'netzach u'mocha Hashem l'kol ponim. We should all be zocheh to see and to hear Pamei Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mhera v'yameinu. Amen.